meeting to order for the Liberty Grove Town Board. The clerk and all supervisors are present, in addition to the clerk administrator, the treasurer, and office assistant. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. If you have cell phones, if you wouldn't mind turning them off, or putting them on vibrate so as not to interrupt the meeting. And a reminder to the board to please speak into the microphone. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We need to approve the agenda, and number 9A is out. We haven't got all the information. And number 13 is out as well. We do not have all the information. Is there anything else?
Yes, I'd like to suggest changing the line item 6 to precede item 5. Items 6A and B could follow item 5, but I think it would provide us normal public input before we have a discussion on item 5. And to that effect, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the agenda with that change.
Is there a second? All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion fails 3 to 5, or 3 to 2, excuse me. Okay, going on, we have the minutes from the 9-4 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those? If not, the chair will move the acceptance of the 9-4 minutes as presented. Seconded by Corker. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. And then we have the special board meeting of 9/20. Are there any additions or corrections to the?
I move that we were approved.
Motion by Farber, seconded by Gaz. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. And then we have the, the Wednesday, September 18th board meeting. Are there corrections, additions to that? If not, I'll move their approval as presented.
Second.
Motion by Lowry, seconded by Farber. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Point of order.
Going on to the treasurer's report. Oops, excuse me. Going on to the bid solicitation, consider approval of pre-cutting bids on Garrett Bay Road. Bud?
We received 2 bids. One on September 13th, one on September 17th. And you all got the handout that I handed around on the safety requirements.
I don't think I got those. Were they in the packet on the table here?
They were in the package that was mailed out to you.
We've got an extra one coming.
Thank you.
Okay, the first one I have is Dave Tree Service. Cover letter, thank you for this opportunity to bid the Garrett Bay project, accept our proposal as submitted. Your certificate of insurance is filed with the town of Liberty Grove, and proof of workman's comp coverage can be provided. Assessment is for cutting all marked trees on Garrett Bay Road, area to cut, intersection of Old School Road to launch ramp at Garrett Bay Park. The estimate follows the guidelines provided by the town of Liberty Grove. This proposal for 2 men and equipment needed to cut all marked trees. There will be no cleanup on wood or brush. Dave's Tree Service has a certificate of liability on file with the town of Liberty Grove. Dave's Tree Service has workers' comp coverage with AmeriSafe. Work will be completed by mid-October. $6,480. That's 6,480. Number 2, Town Line Timber Services. Removal of all marked trees and those dead trees as indicated by town crew. Town crew will chip and haul wood. We'll provide labor and equipment for the removal of the designated trees to include 60-foot bucket truck operator, bobcat and operator with tree shear and grapple attachment to expedite removal of trees that do not require bucket truck. Ground labor with chainsaw to assist with debris on the ground to minimize lane closures and provide traffic control. Trees will be cut in a manner to minimize collateral damage to adjacent trees and facilitate removal of debris by the town crew. Estimated time of completion, 3 days. Cost, $5,400. Insurance is on file with the town of Liberty Grove. Thank you for the opportunity. Jake Grancy.
And there are no other bids. Those are the only two bids. Point of reference here, Town Line is not certified to work near the power line. So they would, in that case, I'm assuming somebody else would have to be called in to do that work. So we probably need to take that into consideration.
Do we have any kind of cost estimate as to what that might be?
There was none given. Nor a time frame as to when that would be.
I gather then that even though the bid doesn't mention it, that Dave's Tree Service is authorized by WP.
They are certified to wire, that's correct.
Was that stated in the bid?
I don't have the bid here right. I believe not.
Didn't Jacob Grancy do, I believe it wasn't the same situation where somebody else called in to do work on the power lines?
Yes.
Was that a substantive bill that came in after that?
As far as I can remember, there was a couple of trees cut, and I don't believe we did get a bill for that, unless I'm mistaken. I don't recall the bill.
My point being that I'm all in favor of having residents of Liberty Grove do, contract work, especially when the bid is lower. It would be nice to have some kind of long-term figure as to what we might expect for the new electrical.
We do have, you noted on a resident, works due on property that we go to.
Okay.
Will the town crew be doing the cleanup and brushing on as far as Dave's Tree Service bid?
Yes, they'll
Like
be
they did
hauling,
with Town Line?
same thing, they'll be hauling a brush and with the lake.
So we've got about, you've got $1,000, $1,080 difference.
WPS doesn't have to go in and pay for the trees that would be near the lines, do they? Is that why we didn't get the bill last time, Bud?
On that special, when the trees were close to the wires, the ones that were down and threatening, they come in and can't cut them.
And would we accept the bid of Town Line's
Second that.
5,400?
Second that.
Okay, motion by Forker, seconded by Goss. Any further discussion? If not, all
I
those-
have some
Go ahead.
discussion here, because we've got a very complicated problem, and I beg everybody to be patient with me. And I'd like to go back to some of the history on this. Town government in Wisconsin operates at the most democratic level. My pledge to voters before I ran for office in '09 is to vote only for items that are fairest for the majority of the residents and equally fair for those that are affected. I believe the rural character of our roads lead many people to buy second homes in our town. Second homeowners pay at least 75% of the school, county, tech school, and town taxes. So having roads that attract people here are a substantially important factor. At this point in the meeting, I recommend tabling item 5 on the agenda until we know exactly which WPS poles will be moved and how far they will end up being from the edge of the blacktop. I'm going to go slow on this so everybody can think it through.
I have a point here. There is a motion on the floor.
Okay,
We cannot have another motion right now except to amend.
okay, all right, well, I'm sorry. Thank you for bringing up the point of order. If the poles are moved less than 6 feet away from the blacktop, why not leave a few more trees? If 6 foot or more away from the blacktop, where the poles are, how many more trees will WPS have to take out to protect the wires? I don't think we know. I asked Bud what he did with WPS. Did he have a written request of them, a detailed result back? And I was not satisfied, but that we knew exactly where each one of those poles was going to go and how far they were going to be away. And I felt very much that if the poles are not going out to 6 feet, the only thing we'll see if we remove all the trees out to 6 foot, we'll have a road that shows predominantly poles. And if the poles are 6 feet or out, how many more are they gonna have to take out to protect the trees that are even behind the existing 6 foot? I bring these things up so we're sure we've thought of everything. Because tonight, our constituents and the supervisors must protect the democratic process that starts at the committee level. And the committees recommend the supervisors with a board meeting make the final decisions and take action. I hope we have a good meeting tonight. Thank you for listening out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe at a previous meeting, a couple of meetings ago, this subject was brought up, and didn't you say, Bud, that no trees would be cut until we had a definitive answer from WPS?
WPS, Justin, I talked to him about 10 days, 2 weeks ago. He said that the poles that are to be moved out of the 6 foot clear zone. And that if there were some trees in the way, that they would make every effort to not cut the trees, and if there were some that were definitely wanted to be saved, they would do some mitigating factors to take care of that. They have put whatever they call these things sticking out, so that the line isn't on the tree but sticks out away from the pole.
An arm, yeah.
And that pushes them further out from the trees, which would minimize or eliminate cutting anything extra, although hangs in that area.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I make a point of responding to everyone who emails me on whatever subject, and I've agonized over this for days now, for more than days. And I wrote a letter, I sent it out to several of the emails that came in recently, one to Gloria Doherty and one to Diane Jarvis. And I think, just to get it off my chest, I'm going to read the letter I sent to Mrs. Doherty. Thank you for your email regarding Garrett Bay Road. I heartily agree with you about the beauty of the road, especially the tree canopy. Personally, It pains me mightily to see the canopy diminished, and I'm on record supporting a plan to eliminate the clear zone in the half-mile stretch of road from Maplewood Drive to the boat launch. At this time, however, I respectfully disagree with any plan to obstruct the planned road repair. I could simply keep silent about the concerns I'm about to relate to you. Holding back would be politically safe and expedient. But my conscience and sense of responsibility to and respect for our institutions compel me to make a stand that in effect betrays the cause I had defended up to only 6 weeks ago, that is, preserving as many trees as possible. During long and patient debate about the proposed road restoration, I had heard no one oppose the need for a repair. The road, especially the portion under the canopy, begs to be repaired. I not only drive that road daily, I also walk that road almost as often. And from the perspective of a walking non-engineer, of course, the road really needs an upgrade, especially and ironically on the portion of the road under the canopy. The town and citizens debated the width of the road, the clear zone, the moving of the utility poles, as Frank just mentioned, the speed limit, and many other topics, but not the idea that the road was anything but in need of repair. During the past month or so, some proponents of preserving the canopy have employed methods that will have long-lasting negative repercussions on the well-being and future of our community, lasting much longer than it will take for the canopy to reestablish itself over Garrett Bay Road. These methods included circulating statements that alleged budgetary misfeasance, violation of federal environmental laws, state laws, municipal audit irregularities, and allegations of self-dealing and profiteering on the part of town employees and board members. If the town reversed its decision, would it not be that the town lends credence to these false, recklessly made allegations? I think so. It's only logical and quite understandable. Above all, though, I do not agree with obstructing the planned road repairs as a matter of principle, something that is more absolute and not relative to the politically charged events of the past month or so. The town board voted on the matter in August, and that vote, like it or not, represents the will of our local government. And of course, everyone and everybody has the right to change his, her, or its mind. But now, if the town were to reverse its decision of last August, the reversal would set, I think, a dangerous precedent. From that point on, any time a citizen or group of citizens oppose the measure duly passed by the town board, all that would be necessary to reverse the measure would be to object strongly enough, obstruct, and ultimately nullify the town board's decision. And it seems the more reckless the statements, the more effective the repeal campaign would be. How many environmentally friendly or safety-oriented or health-promoting measures that you and I, Mrs. Doherty, or Mrs. Jarvis in that case, and I might support could be endangered if an opponent of the measure did nothing more than strongly protest and obstruct it. Local government as we know it would come to a halt. In short, the integrity of our local governing body is at stake. The treasure of the tree canopy pales in significance when compared to the much more valuable gift we have of governing ourselves, as flawed as that process may be on occasion. As much as you and I regret disturbing the tree canopy, preserving the canopy should not endanger the more fundamental concept of responsible, effective local government. By taking this position, I might be committing political suicide, be betraying a cause I hold dear to my heart, and even worse, be letting down many of my neighbors who have put their trust in my representing their wishes. But in the final analysis, were I not to take this stand, I would be compromising my principles and betraying my conscience. So while I apologize, Mrs. Doherty, for not accommodating your request, I hope you will understand how difficult this has been for all of us. Respectfully.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I talked to a couple people today, and one of the things that I talked to them about was the fact that there is, within Robert's Rules of Orders, right here, the possibility of reconsidering a vote on a particular motion. When I talked to them, I was under the impression that that could be done at any time. After going back through this book and reading the contents of it, the vote to reconsider a motion can only be done on the day the motion is made or the day after. So technically, according to Robert's rules, the motion that was made by the town board stays in effect. Even the two people that voted against the motion cannot vote or make a motion to reconsider that motion. I just wanted to make that clear to the two people that I talked to today.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion to award the contract, $5,400 to Town Line Timber Service. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I'll abstain.
Do you have any?
Based on the fact that I know Stephanie, she's the president of the Historical Society, and I feel there's a relationship there that might cause conflict.
All right,
I will say nay.
okay. Carries 3-1, one abstention. Okay, going on to the next item on the agenda, excuse me. I asked that this be put on the agenda. We have an ordinance on the books, and the board has a copy of the major points of the ordinance that pertains to public input. And I need to say a few things first. Public input is not a right. Public input is granted at the willingness of a local municipality to grant that. And this is explained all over the place. Most municipalities, and including Liberty Grove, have always allowed public input. And I think they should, and I think it should continue. But I think we all must understand that there is responsibility on both sides of the public input. The board needs to hear from the public, and we need to consider the concerns of the public. What the public has to understand is we have a responsibility to approximately 1,700 residents in Liberty Grove. We have a responsibility to conduct ourselves in a very civil manner, a responsibility to conduct ourselves in the best fiduciary manner that we can, and most importantly, to conduct ourselves and make a decision based upon what is the best interest of the entire town. And I've got to go back to that, what is in the best interest of the entire town. Now, I understand there's been a lot of emotions regarding the tree cutting. The board received a recommendation from the engineering firm that we hired to have a clear zone of 10 feet. The board said that was not acceptable. We had heard concerns from the citizens. We went to 6 feet. Within that 6 feet, there are numerous trees that are going to remain. There are some trees, obviously, that cannot remain. Some trees, unfortunately, some of the beautiful maple trees that are closest to the road, as that road is reconstructed, resurfaced, will suffer root damage. And any arborist will tell you that the tree is then doomed. Not immediately, may take years. So if we go in and if we do this correctly, if we move that clear zone, and clear zone is kind of a catch-all word because it's not going to be completely clear. If we do it correctly, the canopy will return, and it will return for the future. The other thing the board has responsibility is to look out down the line. We have a responsibility for the future residents of this community, for the children that grow up here and hopefully come back here and stay here. We have to provide them the best we can for that future. And the last thing I want to say here is, a board meeting is exactly that. It is a meeting of the town board, it is not a meeting of the town electorate, and it is not a meeting that can be interrupted by unruliness. And we had an unfortunate circumstance at the last meeting. Bud and I and Janet have spoken to the person involved. There were no hard feelings one way or the other. We understand that the emotions got out of hand a little bit, and that is fine. I respect that people get emotional about these items. But you have to place a certain degree of trust in the decision-making process that we as Americans have developed. There is a matter of rule of law here. We may not all agree with it all the time, but it is our responsibility to respect that and our responsibility to move on that. All right, that being said, I've asked the board to take a look at the current ordinance in place and to feel it out if they are comfortable with it as it now stands. If they'd like to see some changes made, which we could do easily. I would also like to point out that this particular ordinance, I believe it was 2 years ago, was changed to allow more time for public input at the behest of the board, not absolute cutoff at 3 minutes. Okay. Anybody have a comment?
I do. I would like to see us consider some of the suggestions that were made in the article from, I believe it was the Towns Association.
Yes.
And two of them, to me, made a lot of sense. Some of the most angry indignation that has been expressed by the public is abrupt cutoff at 3 minutes. And in an attempt to make that less rude, if you will, the article suggested a 3 to 5 minute limit. And I wonder if we wouldn't consider a 3 to 5 minute limit with a quote-unquote warning at the 3 minute mark, especially if the input is becoming repetitive. And secondly, another suggestion that I saw in the article that intrigued me, and I thought this may also help, was for those who can see the agenda when it's posted and wish to speak and public input, that they register before the meeting even starts, so that the board has an idea. Are we talking about 5 people getting up to speak here, or are there going to be 50? So we can have some idea of what type of limitations. Do we need to adhere strictly to the 3 minute, or can we give a little bit without springing it on people when they're there and ready to speak?
Okay, anyone else?
I have a question in terms of just the logistics of it. How, how does one, from the town's point of view, stop something from becoming an agenda item that's not on the agenda item through dialogue? Where does that begin and end? Because in adhering to the Public Meetings Act, it would seem that unless something's on the agenda already, that a dialogue that gets too far into the dialogue becomes an agenda item. That seems to be one of the gray areas that's difficult to control and still be in compliance.
That was a concern of mine as well, because according to the Wisconsin Open Meetings Law, unless an item is on the agenda, you cannot, it's illegal to engage in more than just the most superficial dialogue. And we have had in public input where someone says, I want an answer to this. And if the answer is a simple yes or no, that's all right, but it rarely ends there. It turns into the why and what if, and then we're crossing a line. And I wonder if we shouldn't consider adding something to the rules that we now have about crossing that line.
Yeah, 7-1, I believe.
Okay,
And then also, 7.6. 7.6 is, there shall be no debating between a citizen and any member or members.
okay, so that seems to be covered, yeah, okay.
Oh, 7-1? This is from our ordinance. 7-1, during the general public input item of each meeting, citizens' input shall be sought, but no action may be taken on a non-agenda item other than to request placement of the item on a future town agenda. Yeah, it's up on the board. What's the thought on going, are you suggesting a 3 to 5 or a 5?
Yes, I'm suggesting a 3-minute recommendation, but a grace period, if you will, up to 5 minutes, as long as there isn't repetition going on.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think we've here received the fact sheet from the UW Extension. It's too bad people in the audience haven't had it too. But it states on this issue, probably the length of each comment could be limited to 3, 4, or 5 minutes. And the citizen should be limited to addressing the body no more than twice on the same issue. Such time limits should apply to question-answer exchanges, as well as the expressions of opinion. To promote equality of opportunity to speak to the body, no citizen who has already addressed the board shall be permitted to do it a second time if another who has not spoken wishes to do so. And I think that wording might be inserted into our existing thing and give us the flexibility. I think John has done a wonderful job in the last 4.5 years. I've had the privilege of being here, of running these meetings, and being very open and free and letting people speak. And I think we can go just maybe a little bit further, but in control. So I would make the recommendation that this wording be inserted into our.
Okay, you're on the second page of that?
Yes. Actually, the bottom paragraph, the last 2/3.
The last, okay, anybody else?
Thank you for that article, I thought that was very good.
You have it. I wonder if we might call upon Lou to work with Bud on this.
Sure.
All right, good, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is.
Excuse me, John.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Item 744 says it's, except for the sponsor, agent, or principal of an agenda item, the board shall limit the time for those with pertinent information to speak for 3 minutes per individual, with additional time allotted at the discretion of the board. Time is not transferable. So you already have that public.
Well, yeah, that was the one that was added. Okay. All right, then let's go on to the 7B, consider receiving the public input.
I'm gonna have to catch up with my thinking here. Did we cover both A and B here?
No, we're in the B
6B.
now.
6B, okay.
And my question to the board at this point in time, do you want to hear public input tonight? Do you want to hear public input on the entire agenda or on what remains of the agenda?
I would like to hear public input on what remains of the agenda. We have had a public hearing on Garrett Bay Road, and I think we have listened and listened and listened.
want to hear general public input? Sans Garrett Bay?
Yes, I think we should.
Okay. All right, that's great. Okay, this is the opportunity for those in the audience to address the board on any issue, sans Garrett Bay, tree cutting, or on a specific item on the agenda. And I guess what we'll do is take row by row, those wishing to make general comments. We'll start in the first row and go. Yes, would you
Nancy.
please? Thank you.
Nancy Kurtz, 12025 Cedar Shore Road. I'd like to speak to agenda item number 14.
You can come up to the ask for agenda. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, anybody else first go? These are just general, please sit down, ma'am. These are just general comments to the board.
Did the board vote on what you just decided?
Sit down, ma'am.
Yes or
Carol,
no?
please. Carol.
Did you vote?
Carol, please. Any other general comments? Front row, first row, please. Second row, general comments. Please step to the podium.
I'm here on item 7.
Oh, okay. Okay. General comments.
John, I have a question. If I want to, are we going to hear what's going to be talked about in number 8 before we have a comment on it, or do we have to comment before it happens?
We will get what the board, what is coming to the board, then we will ask for public comments, then it comes back to the board. So you will hear what we're going to discuss and have an opportunity to comment on it.
Okay, but I'll do number 8, Henry Godbout.
Second row. Third row, please. Bob?
I guess the way, Tidwell, 12376 Timberline Road, I guess the way that I would be doing this now is to bring up a subject that I would like to see on a future agenda.
Sure.
Okay, and it's Valet Motel again.
Okay.
And I think we need an inspection, and I'll get Kathy here from Green Bay, and I'll come and at least one board member. We're down to the difficult things, and she's got to hear a little bit of hard love, in my opinion. And we're gonna have to address her point, that she can keep, that votes automatically are allowed to stay there. We gotta address that too, when we meet with her.
Okay.
Does this include the house or just exterior, just the outside?
Well, that's all we've been working on is the outside. We looked inside, we haven't worked on it.
Have you a date in mind?
Well, I did have this Friday in mind, but we can't do that, it'll have to be after the, let me call her and find out when she can make it, and then I'll call you, John.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're on the third row and fourth row. And fifth row. Oh, go ahead. Is this a general comment or a comment on an item?
There isn't a
Okay.
My name is Cindy Shaws, and I live on Garrett Road. We can't hear you.
The mic's,
Can you turn up the mic, please?
Ma'am, you need to address the board, not the other. There you go, thank you.
My name is Cindy Shaughness, and I live on Garrett Bay Road.
I have a question, I guess.
Thank you.
Is it possible for us to table the work on Garrett Bay Road and put it on another agenda when tensions have calmed, when we have considered all of the new ideas that have.
Point of order. We're not talking about your people anymore. I'm sorry.
At the beginning, we mentioned Sands Garrett Bay. Sorry.
Well, it's time to go, isn't it? You guys
I
are,
think
you're
I
bullshit.
would just like to make another comment. You have a very angry citizenry out here. The vote was extremely
Ma'am?
close.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I really don't want to cut you off, but we had agreed not to have comments.
This is a general comment about
But it stems from,
listening to.
it stems from Garrett Bay Road.
I don't think it only stems from Garrett Bay Road. I believe at last meeting, there were people here speaking on several different agenda items who left angry because they felt that the board was not listening to them.
Thank you. We were on Fourth Row, I believe. Yes.
Bud, would you be kind enough, board, would you be kind enough just to repeat the dates? I didn't catch those for you. That's all I learned, was just the dates. The dates.
I don't believe there is a date at this point in time. Anybody else in the fourth row, please? And the fifth row.
Okay. I'm still asking the same question. I thought I only heard two people discuss whether or not Sands Garrett Bay Road was going to be policy here. I didn't see any discussion on it or hear it. I don't think there was a vote. Two people said agreed and that was it. Is that how you make a decision?
There was a motion.
It was voted on?
I don't think so.
I don't think it was.
Which question are you asking?
I'm talking about when you decided, in public input, that we could only discuss things Sands Garrett Bay Road. I thought I heard two people agree with it, but I don't remember hearing a vote.
It was by consensus, Carol.
Can you read back the minutes?
It was by consensus, am I correct to the board?
Read back the minutes.
Someone's asking to read back the
Okay.
minutes.
Anybody else? Roll 5. Roll 6? Yes, ma'am.
You're not gonna read the minutes?
No.
Can I see the hands of the people who agreed with that at least?
Carol, please. Carol?
I'm gonna stand here until I see
Carol.
some hands go up. I'm sorry.
Carol, don't put me in the position of
You
asking
can't
the
force me to
officer.
sit down. I can
Carol,
stand and be silent.
Carol,
You put yourself.
don't put me in the position of asking the officer in the room to remove you from the hall for interrupting the meeting. I don't want to do that.
Let's everybody stand.
Deputy?
He's outside.
Is that a small?
The standing people.
Deputy, would you please escort these two individuals out the door? They were interrupting the meeting. If they agree to come back into the meeting and not interrupt anymore, please escort them back in.
People stand up.
Let's go, guys.
Take a picture, take a picture.
Together, folks.
Rubbish.
Take them all out.
Take them all out.
Let's go. Everybody standing, circle out.
Take those clowns in the front. Oh, meeting's over, it doesn't matter.
No.
What are they doing?
Everybody's standing, start heading out. They want you to meet.
For standing? Is there a law against standing?
Is that, I just want to clarify, it's for standing. If we don't, for standing. I'll get more evidence here and you'll be arrested. Under what law? Under what law? What was the time? For standing. Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Interrupt you.
I'm not interrupting, I'm asking, I'm standing.
I'm not gonna do this. You're gonna go, or am I gonna arrest you?
For standing, you're arresting. Just asking.
Is it worth it really to get arrested? Come on.
Taser, I'm asking.
And I'm telling you.
Hi, Carol.
Let's go. Justice for all.
Sorry.
I'm standing.
Out.
I'm standing.
It's up to you.
You want to drag me out? Go ahead.
Are you gonna leave or not?
No.
It's your last chance. You
No
leaving or
law
not?
against standing.
Are you leaving or not?
couldn't even hear what they were saying.
Carol, please. Officer, will you then conduct...
Be aware of what's happening here, folks. That's democracy in action.
Are any indicating that they'll come back in and not interrupt the meeting?
Want me to ask?
Yes, please.
Anybody that wants to not interrupt the meeting? They do not want you to stand unless you're gonna speak to the board. I'm here to follow what they're telling you. All right? Anybody that wants to follow the rules, you can come back in.
Is there a rule against standing?
There it is.
What rule?
Town board.
I didn't hear a rule against standing.
Anybody else? Last time. Anybody want back in?
There is no rule.
Nope, that's it. You come back.
I guess there's a issue.
You gonna be quiet? I hear one noise, everybody's out. Are you fine with the door like it is, or do you want that shut?
They need to be way outside.
All right. Everybody out. Everybody's gotta be outside. Everybody else.
Okay, I move we go back into session. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait, we got to get the...
When you were reviewing 6A, Lynn Hale, when you were reviewing 6A, you had something about only 2 people speaking to any individual point.
No, that, Gary read that, and what it was an excerpt taken from the extension paper that we got that said a person should not speak more than twice at the same meeting on the same issue, one person.
So if you had 10 people in the crowd, each wanted to speak on the same issue, that would
Correct.
be permitted?
That would be correct, yes. And they could actually each speak twice.
After everybody else has spoken.
Right.
Okay, I misunderstood that, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, I believe we were on the... Yes.
I would like to speak on item 8A, townwide garbage collection.
We took that out, we don't have all the information that we needed on it, Mike.
Oh, okay. I thought that was 9.
8A, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 8A, the townwide garbage, I'd like to speak on, please.
Anybody else? Mike?
Mike Markey. I think the board is pretty reasonable in allowing people to speak during public input. I don't see any problem with that in particular. But I think sometimes there are hard feelings over the time limit. Not so much the time limit of 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5, but I think some people are confused when they start to get to 3 minutes or whatever. Somebody says your 3 minutes are up, but I don't think anybody really keeps track. I would suggest, and I hate to see it happen, but perhaps an egg timer or even a light device. In professional meetings, when you're speaking, it's not unusual. They give you 10 minutes to speak. When you get to 8 minutes, it's green light until 8 minutes, then they give you a yellow for caution and a red, and you get the hook. And I think that would be very helpful for a lot of people who don't really appreciate or understand how long you've been up here speaking. That would help, I think, clarify some things. Thanks.
We might be able to get the stopwatch and or the egg timer from some of the previous chairmen.
Actually, each of us has a smartphone that has the timer.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Yes, Bob?
On item 12, when we get to that, and I think you're going to show the video tonight.
We ran into a snag on that.
Oh, you did, okay. I would like for us to have a discussion about the situation, as you see it now. We got our eyes here.
Paul?
Item 12, when you get to that item, please.
Peter?
Item 3, I don't believe I heard an agenda approval.
We did.
We had a motion to not approve it the way it was.
I think he's right.
I agree with him. But you never took up another motion to approve it.
The motion of Frank's amendment was not seconded.
You defeated Frank's amendment.
We're all really nervous tonight.
Good point, thank you, Peter. All right, we'll go back to 3. Approve the agenda as we corrected it. All right, all in favor?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, anybody else, please?
That was a 5-0 vote.
Yes. Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. All right. Plan Commission. Consider recommendation to support variance for dormers at 11379 Beach Road. David Barnes.
Yes, and I believe Ms. Murray is here to answer questions if we have them. The Plan Commission reviewed Mr. Barnes's request for variance, and it was a very well thought out request. He has a structure that is very close to the talus of the Niagara Escarpment, and he really doesn't have any place to go to add on. He's not increasing the footprint at all with the dormers. He is doing it in a way and in conjunction with the DNR that is very environmentally friendly, and he will also be removing a significant amount of lot coverage that exists there now in conjunction with this project. In advance of his request, he actually has already gone to the sanitary department and put in a larger private on-site system. So he really has, we felt, the Plan Commission felt he had a demonstrated hardship, which was due to unique property limitations. We did not see harm to the public interest. Indeed, we saw benefit to the public interest. And we unanimously approved and supported the request, and also requested that the board, and I will make a motion to that, that the board authorize Bob to send a letter in support of the David Barnes variance at 11379 Beach Road.
For a second.
Motion by Cos, seconded by Votos. Any further discussion?
Did you have anything to add?
Not really, just if there were questions, I just thought I'd be here.
Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Finance Committee, consider townwide garbage collection.
Well, I can, and jump in anytime you want to help me out here. We discussed this at the Finance Committee level, and it was an idea that was put forth during our recent audit for 2012 as a way to take the current recycling costs that we incur and pay for out of our budget from beneath the state caps, freeing up a little more money. We are so tight under the state caps. We have been so very frugal with your tax dollars, despite what you might have read recently in the paper, that when the caps came, we were cut to the bone, and now we can't go no higher, according to state law. So many municipalities that are in the same boat as we are with the caps and having been very frugal with tax dollars are finding that there are legal ways to bring things from under that state cap that don't count. And it gives us a little bit of breathing room. But in this instance, if we contract for garbage and or recycling, because of the volume of people, it winds up being, in most cases, a much better deal for the individuals, and they will wind up paying less. In some cases, like my husband and I, who pay a grand total of $52 a year for our garbage collection, we are enabling them to opt out of the system. So this would be a fee that would be put on the tax bill for anyone who wanted it, and for those who didn't, you don't have to. Did I say that right?
And it is also stemming from the auditors. He read minutes as part of his audit.
Okay.
And he found a lot of times in our minutes, there were people complaining about how there was no place to put garbage.
What do we do with our garbage?
That's why, another reason he came up with the suggestion that this would be a way to do it and not increase tax dollars.
And Johnny come lately to the issue was the Parks and Property Committee, and Michael Mercier and Gary worked very hard on a trial program that we had, where we had 3 receptacles, one at the visitor center, one at Fitzgerald Park, and one at Wills Park. And just to see what would happen. We have a lot of experience in the persons of Bud and Jay and the town crew and Janet, for example, about what does happen when there are receptacles in places like that in the parks. And because there is no, well, in part because there is no place for people to have trash pickup, they will use the park receptacles, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened during that trial period for the 3 months. The dumpsters in the 3 locations, well, especially in the parks, were used for private use, obviously for private use. And the thinking is that perhaps not only will this program allow the town to provide a service at a very reasonable cost, as well as what Nancy suggested, to opt out if you didn't want that service on the one hand, including recyclable materials, but also to be able to maybe stem some of the problems we've had with receptacles in the parks, to obviate the need for people to have to throw their trash there if they have another option.
Okay, Mike, you want to address the board on this?
Michael Mercier, 12054 Highway 42, Ellison Bay. As Lou just mentioned, I was involved with Mr. Farber in doing a little bit of research and getting a trial run accomplished in our parks. I was very much a proponent for us to have trash receptacles and recycling receptacles in our public areas. So the board was gracious enough to give us a trial run. It was not successful at all. Those of you that are here that know me know I was very adamant about the trash receptacle program in the parks and thought it was very much something the town should provide. I recently acquired a puppy and have now become the person that gets to walk him every evening. And on my walk, we would checked each one of the locations where the dumpsters and recycling bins were. And I have to say, quite frankly, I was pretty disappointed in the town's citizens. I had been told repeatedly by the town board and by Jay and by others how much it had been abused in the past, and I really didn't think that it could be possible for it to be abused that badly. But I literally found lawn furniture that was purposely cut up into pieces so that it would fit into the dumpster at Fitzgerald Park. And that was pretty disappointing, and it was obvious that people were throwing other personal trash in some of the other locations as well. I very much speak in favor of the town pursuing the townwide pickup. I agree with what Lou said. I think a lot of the disdain for people feeling they need to abuse the public trash is that they're disappointed that there's not another way to dispose of it. I attended a couple of the finance committee meetings that Nancy spoke of, and I also would agree that it's pretty unbelievably inexpensive depending on the number of people that are involved. I also just want to add that I would say, standing here, that I'm very much in favor of the program, even though I probably would be somebody who would opt out because it might not quite meet my needs. My wife and I both run a business out of our home, and the containers probably wouldn't satisfy the amount of waste that my family and our businesses create, which is fine, but I just wanted to add that even being somebody who probably would not take advantage of it, I think it's very much a good idea for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's all. Okay, then back to the board. Yes.
I think people in the audience should understand that we are currently in our budget, under the cap, are paying for recycling. And does that figure somewhere around $10 or $12, $14,000 a year, Janet? 24,000. Now, the new trash pickup system includes both trash, garbage, well, trash and garbage, and recycling, all in one container, or two containers. So this moves this $24,000 figure out of the town's budget and puts it on the individual tax bill of each owner. And every tax bill person will get a letter from the town saying, if you do not want to participate, you can opt out. But then they will have to take their garbage and dispose of it themselves. Did you have a point that you wanted to make, Janet?
I think we need to make it clear that we did not include, commercial garbage, and that we'll probably have to work out some method of recycling for commercial people. I would hate to say publicly that we're going to completely eliminate recycling. I don't know that that's a fair statement to make right now. I think that's gonna come at finance and budget time when we try to figure all that out. It will reduce that, maybe. My guess is it will reduce that 24,000, but something has to be provided for the commercial customers.
For those who are.
Yeah.
On the revenue side, there is a recycling rebate of this year $7,000.
Yes.
That offsets against the 24,000?
Yes.
Will those containers still remain at going garbage?
That has to be decided.
Okay. Well, there'd have to be some place for those that opt out to go.
Yes.
We talked in finance about doing the mailing, just the questionnaire. Approximately 2,200 people need to be contacted. I contacted that postcard builder company. They will create the postcard, they put the postage on it, they mail it out, and then what we will get here is the response from people. The cost that they quoted me was $3,036. That's for the postcard, the mailing, the postage, everything. If we create it here, our only option is to create a postcard and then send it out in first-class mail. And if we do it, it's going to be about $2,000. Oh, yeah. And that questionnaire is going to be very basic. It will outline what type of service you would get, the approximate cost, startup cost, and just a brief explanation that future years, the cost would be a little bit different. We have to figure out the wording on that. And also postcard builders, that will go out first-class mail, so if any of them have to be returned for a bad address, it'll come back to us with that.
And one of the attractive features of the program too, I think, is not only will it include recycling, but it'll include a single stream recycling. So rather than have alternate weeks of paper and on the one hand and glass and plastic on the other hand, paper and glass would be recycled weekly in the same container, separate from the trash.
Every other week.
Every other week, separate from the trash. And that there would be an option for 1 year, 6 months for seasonal people, which would be May 1st through November, or the opt-out. So there are 3 options. So we did take into consideration the fact that so many of our residents are seasonal, who have the same needs, but don't necessarily want a year's worth of expense in terms of trash volume.
Will going garbage still provide the services they now provide to residents and non-residents? I know some people purchase garbage bags and place those on the curb, besides what they do at going garbage in terms of recycling. So those.
Anybody can have a private service with them.
Okay.
And right, and even with these containers, which the containers will be provided, you have to take them out to the curb. But if for some reason you don't want to, you're not able to, you yourself can contact them, and on a separate fee and a separate setup with them, they will, you can work that out with them on your own.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Sorry.
Huh?
Sorry.
Okay, but I'm not understanding this.
Is that a question? Okay. All right, let's go back to this. Okay, what is being proposed is to offer recycling and garbage collection to anybody in the town, any household.
Resident, not commercial.
Yeah, not commercial. That would be added to your tax bill. And it would be a line item, obviously, on your tax bill. You would have an option of signing up for 6 months, signing up for a full year, or not signing up. If you wanted to continue your private collection with going garbage, advanced, or whoever else you might have, that would be your option as well. What we have to work out is how we're going to handle the commercial end of the recycling at the going garbage collection point. There also would be available, you could take your garbage and collection recyclables to going garbage. That would be outside of what we're talking about. The going garbage has a fee for that.
Didn't we also discuss sending these cards out?
Yes.
And if the overwhelming response, if the overwhelming response back to us is no, I don't want it.
We will not do it.
Then we won't do it at all.
I know it's impossible right now to discuss exact amounts, but we did bandy about some figures for what it would cost for the annual, the 6 month as well, though, that included. And if I recall, it was for a full year for both trash and recyclables, it was around $120.
for a full year.
It's 180 for a full year.
Stand
Our
corrected.
final evaluation, yeah.
Jeff, do you want to make a comment on this since you're involved in this?
What are we not getting right?
I'm not offering any corrections, really, unless you have a question, I could answer a specific question from the discussion.
Was the description that we gave correct as to how we're going to proceed with this?
Yes, and the exact service details, we would need further discussions about how you would want it performed. And so there, generally, it sounds like you were describing the same discussion that was had at the Finance Committee meeting.
And the 6 months would not necessarily be 50% of that annual one. It would be slightly more than half, simply because there are costs associated with that 6 month that would not necessarily be half of the annual one. So you figure between, at this point, depending on how many people opt out, if it goes ahead, somewhere between 90 and 100 for a 6 month service.
That's a preliminary figure at this point. We won't have a hard figure until we get the response.
That's correct.
And at that point, you can make a decision with whether to go ahead or not. Anybody else have a question, Jeff? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now that I have a question of, all right, if we go with the postcards, where do we find the monies to send them? We have.
We have 2,900 left in there.
We covered pretty well.
Like that, I'll seek another 100 or something.
Okay, well, actually, that's coming up on 8C. Any other discussion on town-wide garbage collection? If not, we'll go on to 8B. Okay, on to 8B. Consider loan procedure to secure capital project.
I think I'll wait till finance paid this one, to get the exact amount.
Okay.
Because we factored in 300 in the budget last year for that, so we should probably finalize that or a version thereof tomorrow.
And now 100.
I can vouch that Bud has been crunching figures for a week on this.
You got the packet in front of you there, so.
Yeah.
Do you want to move to table?
Yes, please.
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay. Consider townwide mailing.
Well, we didn't actually make a motion to consider doing it.
Well, I'm assuming that will come as part of this.
Okay.
Well, this is actually the survey. More of the survey than actual going ahead.
So actually, if we send out the postcards and the survey, then we will know whether or not to consider having it yea or nay.
Yes.
It'll depend on the public.
And we get a more concrete figure, knowing the amount of election that's going to have to take place.
Do we have some idea of what response will trigger us doing it and what response will not? Are we talking 50% of the population, 60% of the population? If it's 50-50, it goes to some other process?
I think we probably have to make that decision at the time we see the response.
And that's the problem with this whole concept is we have a very vague target here. We have ballpark figures only for what's this gonna cost, yet we're wanting the public to respond to this survey, whether they wanna opt in or not. And of course, the burning first question any public person, myself included, is going to have is, how much will it cost? Well, we don't know until we know how many people wanna do it. So it's,
But we did come up with.
we did come up with
For the first
ballpark,
year.
yeah, for the first year. And that's the best we have to go on, and I wish we had something more concrete, but the best we have are the ballpark figures for the first year.
I think Nancy's explained what her situation is. I'm willing to share ours. We are here year-round, and we only have garbage pickup at our residence at $180 or thereabouts a year. It's going to be a fourth or even a fifth of what we're now paying. And besides that, we still have to keep our recycles separate in two things and take them to going garbage. And the town pays for that, which is, as Janet says, about $24,000. So my basic opinion is that it's going to be a major saving for each person. And I hope our postcard will delineate that sufficiently so that we get the information out there and they'll see how much money they're saving. I think one of the other plus advantages is if we go into this, we're hopeful that one or two positions will be added to the going garbage staff to accommodate townwide service. And this keeps our money at home. And I think that's very important.
Well, it appears that we're shooting within $100 covering it.
There's some room in the leftovers from the current budget that we can pop in there.
See what we can wring out of it.
I won't buy stamps to send out tax bills. How about that?
Okay. Somebody care to make a motion on this, or?
I move, go ahead, Gary. I move that we send out a mailing on townwide trash and recyclable collection.
And pay for it from the remaining room tax available and.
Wherever the dollars fall.
Okay, which option are you gonna do? You got
The postcards, right?
Yeah, the postcard.
Postcard builder?
Yeah.
Or we wanna do it in-house?
I think you guys have enough on your plate this time of
I
year.
mean, it's budget crunch, let's,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Farber, seconded by Katsas. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, 9A is out. 9B, consider a recommendation to install informational sign at Biofilter, Ellison Bay Community Center. I believe that's you, Lou. All right.
Yes, the proposal had been raised by Beth Coleman at the Parks and Property Committee meeting the time before last. And the focal point would be the sustainable garden that Beth has worked on in the community center park, in Ellison Bay Community Center, which is really a showpiece in many ways, not just aesthetically, but from a knowledge point of view, from a learning point of view. And what Beth was suggesting would be an informational sign that would be part of a destination, if you will, as simple as that might be, for anyone who would be interested in seeing what sustainable gardening could look like and how it works. And an example, a living example right there. She used a page from the book that the Clearing uses in the signs that they have, a very tastefully done vertical sign on wrought iron, and estimated the cost to be about $600. She would work up text for that informational sign. explaining what a sustainable garden is, why it works the way it does, and so forth. And then the board would, if we approve the go-ahead with the idea, would then run that text by the town board and say, this is what I propose to put on the sign. And so the Parks and Property Committee voted unanimously to bring that $600 proposal to the town board for inclusion in next year's 2014 budget. No, it's not a function of this year's budget. But eyes were blinking at different times at that.
I was holding my breath.
Yeah. No, it would be part of the 2014 budget.
Money from me.
Get it right back again.
Okay. All right, Bruce, anybody have questions?
Yeah, I'd like to just point out, for those of you that have not been down to the community center in over a year, you will be totally amazed at what Beth has done to that lakefront. It is just astounding what she's managed to accomplish. I'd also like to point out that this is actually the first of 3 biofilters that we are going to be putting in Ellison Bay. So when you talk about green, you can talk about Ellison Bay, because there's one going in at Europe Bay and there's one going in at Sand Bay. And the process on that will be starting probably later this year, if I'm not mistaken.
So I would move that the town board consider for inclusion in the 2014 budget an amount not to exceed $600 for an informational sign about a sustainable garden at the Ellison Bay Community Park.
I'll second. So, you have a tie for the second. Josh, okay. Any further discussion? Oh,
Just
go
one.
ahead.
If there are going to be 2 others going in, would it be reasonable to consider adding them into the 2014 budget as well, or is it too early?
Well, I don't think that she's ready to put a sustainable garden in
Oh,
there.
okay,
That
okay.
sustainable garden was part of that project in the park.
Okay.
And there's no question too, though, that the water quality, which is the function of the biofilters at Holtz and at Sand Bay, the biofilters are part of the Great Lakes Restoration Project. And we've agreed, in fact, as a town, with the agreement that the Cook County Department of Soil and Water wanted us to enter into, would have signs that sort of tout the fact that this community is part of the Great Lakes Restoration Project that ultimately will service the beaches, those 2 beaches, by cleaning the water in the Great Lakes as well. And so, to me, a sign that would be like that would be very much in order, but I don't think we're ready for it, even in 2014.
She's not ready for it.
Yes, exactly.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Number 10, roofing bids for sand, salt building, and women's club building.
We've received 1 bid from Pile Construction, received September 11th. It's marked roofing bids. Certificate of liability insurance included. Request for proposal is included for the sand salt storage building in the back here. From Pile Construction, it's a replacement of roofing on the sand salt shed. Includes all materials, labor cleanup, and waste removal. It's a complete tear-off and new metal roof installation. New metal installation is based upon a classic grid profile panel. There'll be a portable toilet facility on site during the project. Tear off 1 layer of 3-tab shingles and recycle the debris. Install a single layer of felt paper to be used as a vapor barrier. High temperature underlayment, classic grid panels, 45-year paint warranty. Vented ridge cap, metal trim and flashings, installation. Project time frame, early winter 2013, time to complete 1 week. All materials will be applied per manufacturer contractor specs. Any rotten materials found will be replaced on a time and material basis at the rate of $45 per person per hour working on the area. Tile Construction is a state licensed contractor and is fully insured. Bottom line price, $17,625.
That's for both roofs?
That's for the salt building in back here.
Okay.
The Women's Club building at 11953 Highway 42. The RFP is stapled to the bid. This is for the replacement of roofing at the Women's Club. Includes all materials, labor cleanup, waste removal. It's bid for a complete tear-off and new metal roof installation. It's based upon a classic rear profile panel. Have a portable toilet on site during the project. Tear off one layer of 3-tab shingles and recycle the debris. High temperature underlayment. Classic grid panels, 45-year paint warranty, vented ridge cap, metal trim and flashings, installation labor. Total price, project price, $17,981. Time frame, spring of 2014. Time to complete 1 week. The same rate for replacing any rotten materials at $45 per person per hour. There's a flyer with the color chart on the inside also.
Okay, the salt building is to be done when, this year?
Yes, winter of 2013. Early winter 2013. So we're looking at, I would assume, before the first of the year.
And what is the budget?
We have 16,000 for this building and 18,000 for the women's club. Over 34,000, so I think we're right. With the two projects together, we're just right over that at about 35,500.
We can still spend that money out of this year's budget. We don't have to go to next year.
For this, yeah, we can look at, we could look at combining the two numbers, spending the salt building out of that amount and then carry the balance over to next year and then add something to it or find something else to make up the difference.
I will move we accept both bids for the sand salt building on this premises and the women's club building in Allison Bay. The total not to exceed, what, 34,981?
No, it's 35,5 approximately.
Okay,
Better say
35,500
36.
approximately.
But if they run into something extra that has to be done, you're gonna have to handy up for that too.
Okay, you want to state your motion again? I'm sorry.
I move we approve, I move we accept the bids from Tile Construction for the sand salt building on this property and the women's club building property in Allison Bay, not to exceed 35,500 plus any time and materials that may be required because of rotten wood.
Okay, second, anything?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Forkert, seconded by Levansos. Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, going on to number 11.
John, I should raise my hand for 11 because I think I have some information. that
Okay.
I don't think the entire board knows about.
Okay.
I had a meeting with the Parks Committee over there at the Service Club. And at that time, Steve Christie, who's been doing all the work, was saying that if he's going to manage the job, he would like to get paid. And he charges in Chicago $150 an hour. But he would do this one for 50. And when the Parks Committee heard that, Christine suggested that maybe we'd want to use Keith Breidenhagen to design what's going to be done and to manage the job, because he will do it for free. So I tried to get together with Keith, and the day that we did it, of course, it rained like hell. Excuse me. So they left town. I'm going to be leaving town shortly, so we've never I've never taken it through what the project is. Now, we have the information if you want to do what Steve Christie said. But we don't have any input from Keith Breidenhagen. And I don't know to what extent it'll be any different, Lou. What do you have any idea?
I don't, Bob, you know a lot more about it than I do.
So I think it's premature to go out for bids now, because you don't know what's required.
This was gonna be done.
So this is from Steve Christie then?
No, that's from Breidenhagen.
Oh, this is by Vegas?
That was scheduled to be done late this fall.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll make that. This is, you know, we gotta figure out what we're doing first.
And Bob was very thoughtful about the fact that, on the one hand, the idea was that the town crew would be able to assume that responsibility. But Bob, on second thought, and then after talking to Stephen, and then perhaps even ultimately with Keith Breidenhagen, to say that really needs something more than just someone telling them what to do. It needs somebody to be able to actually do that job as well. It's a bigger task than what, I think it's still a very worthy task that I'm assuming if we do table it tonight and if the board approves tabling it, that we would just bring it back to the board when we have a little bit more concrete information. And at the same time, I think during budget discussion over the next couple of weeks or so, that we not forget about somehow building in something, I'm not sure how that works, building in something in the 2014 budget to be able to deal with what we think might be a very viable project. But
I'll remind you.
Yeah, I know you, and I count on you doing that, Bob.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, the chair will then entertain a motion to table this until additional information is available. The chair will make the motion to table this. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Who seconded that?
Frank did, I'm sorry. Okay, going on to number 12. Consider advanced fund video depicting fish stocking impacts in Gills Rock. We had some technical difficulties on being able to show that. It would knock our camera out, and our resident technician was having all sorts of troubles doing it. So, if the board will remember, we went ahead and basically suggested the video be made at the cost, I believe it was $500. And we're coming back and asking that for that to be funded from the board. And I don't know how many people have contributed to that.
I don't think, we're not gathering, we haven't gathered any money. If anyone has contributed, you guys have money. I think Studebaker gave some money. And if you need contributions, we can get them.
Yeah, he took my check. I don't think he took his check, he took mine.
Oh.
And it was for $100.
Yeah.
But
There were three versions. Can I go ahead?
yeah, please.
There were three versions, and I sent Janet version 3 today. And it's improved as we've gone along. And I sent you, I think, the third version then you
Okay,
can
I
get a
got- I
chance to
didn't
look
get
at
a
it.
chance to see it.
And then we need to decide, well, one, is the board gonna fund it? That's an interesting question. And then, what do we do? I mean, we're gonna go ahead with this, whether the board's gonna fund it or not.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah.
I got on this a little later than some of the other guys, but I did get involved in the video on it. And I know that someone had asked you about funding it. I don't know how the tourism fund, I didn't know that you should really fund it out of your general or something, but the tourism fund that is being collected, somehow I thought maybe it would work coming out of that. I don't know how Door County, I don't know how it's all involved. Door County is involved somehow because they have a person on the payroll using tourism, the tourism funding money. And I don't know where the rest of the money is on that, if it's somewhere where it sits and it's budgeted out for certain things, or if you hold the money for that, or how that actually, or if you set budgets in a.
Went to fireworks for Deals Riding, it's basically, and we just kind of.
Wiped it out.
Wiped it
Jen
out.
just said we had 2,900 left and we're spending 3,000 to send out the postcards.
Okay, you're using it out of,
Yeah, the remaining.
okay, I didn't hear that thing with postcards.
Is that video on a CD or on
No,
YouTube is
YouTube.
where it will go. Right now it's locked, so you gotta have
So,
that.
any organization that has YouTube capability can put that on the air.
I'm not that technical.
Me neither, but I know that, because we put this stuff on the air. What you're saying right now is going out on YouTube.
Okay, I'll be careful. But I just wanted to, when you looked at funding it, and you were kind of agreeing to fund it to some degree from everything I heard, I had kind of asked when I came in, and you looked back at the minutes, where I'd asked that, at least Tom could sign something in a letter saying that you had a group come in front of you, and, sometimes that helps just to have the mention a group came in front of you asking for funding or asking for recognition that some problem was happening in the town. And then I heard, I guess I didn't really hear from you guys, but I heard through it that the town might fund it. And I was just wondering how it funded. When does the next money come in for the tour? It comes in every quarter, or how does it actually work for the tourism money?
It comes in every month, but there's a 2-month lag time. So in October, we'll be collecting tourism zone money from August.
Yeah,
But it's budget,
And it's budgeted, right.
so the next round isn't until the 2014 budget.
unless the figure exceeds what we budgeted.
Right, unless you're, okay, because then you'd have leftover remaining money in that fund.
And that does happen from time to time.
We'll be looking at advancing it and then getting the money back,
Yep.
so it doesn't make any difference.
Okay, if you advance it and then got the money back. I just didn't think it, just not, I didn't know that the general fund thing would be a good idea. I thought it'd be better coming out of like the tourism dollar fund, just not to set a precedent on.
Well, if it's gonna stay gone, and then we gotta talk about it, but if we're getting reimbursed for it,
And you'd get reimbursed how, from the tourism fund then? Or from John?
yeah,
Okay,
and those guys out there.
okay.
I
I guess,
There was a whole bunch of guys here the other night that.
yeah, they are getting work, it's funny.
You notice they didn't say
Yeah, okay. Is it a townsperson that's doing the video? I don't know this. Is it a townsperson that's doing the video that the town is in between them paying it and you paying it?
Hired
Hired.
guy.
Okay.
It's the one that took your picture.
Yeah, no, okay, I guess I can understand, but I didn't know where it was going. I just want to make sure that it kind of came out of like the tourism money, it was reimbursed somehow that way, so it didn't look like it would, so it didn't actually come out of like a general.
If memory serves me correct, this was going to come back to the board to be funded, but in the interim, to get the production done, some people were supposed to pony up. One of us did.
Okay.
I don't know if Dave did or not, I have no idea, I know he delivered the check.
Okay. I guess we'll have to look into that little part of the issue.
Who's collecting? Who bought it? Okay.
Sure, you bet.
You bet. And we make it out to Town of Liberty Grove.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and then it's for them to advance it, okay.
And then I think what we should do with finance is to consider reimbursing those people that put up money. I mean, I don't really get my other check.
I guess
Well,
that,
thought you guys were just donating that.
My understanding was that to get the project going, we had to have some upfront funds.
And he hasn't asked for any.
Yeah, he
Oh,
did.
did he? Oh, you did, okay.
I thought the town was gonna do the upfront and then get reimbursed from these individuals.
We can do that.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, that's what I thought came out of the meeting, I could be wrong.
okay, I was a little lost on it, but I think it's, you know.
The bottom line is, Paul, you're a star now.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, the version I saw is
Yeah.
very impressive.
And it
Now, I
is-
assume the next version has an audio with it, right?
Yeah, I've heard some audios, yeah. So right now, it's.
Yeah, right.
We need to discuss what we do next, I think. And, I've been, I've got two senators and our local fellow that I'm sending stuff to.
We set out,
Sent out about between 20 and 25 letters with John's signature and then some with my signature to federal, state, representatives, senators, congressmen.
Okay. And any of them, we haven't sent the video to any of them.
no, not yet. That I think should be the next step.
Yeah.
We got a response today or yesterday from the Department of Natural Resources, Northern Lake Michigan Fisheries Supervisor David Boyarsky, to my letter.
Oh.
Senator Lasay's office called, well, an intern called this morning. Thank you for the letter. We have to understand they really can't tell the DNR what to do, but so forth. But at least they're aware of it. And I think if we now send copies of the production, it would help.
If there's, excuse me, John, did anybody on the board see edit 3, which came out today?
No, I'm sorry.
Nobody has?
I saw it.
Janet saw it.
Okay, you saw it, did you find it acceptable?
Very nice.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut it loose there, because I think he's got it locked up, so you had to have that email in order to open it. So then anybody on YouTube will be able to read it, and then I will take his email and forward it to everybody on the list I have, so.
Whatever link I was sent opens it up.
Yes, it did. Yes, it
So,
did.
I mean, if I have that link on our website, anybody that goes to our website, they should be able to open that up.
Good, okay. I thought it was locked up, so only the people that had the demo.
Also, if we're gonna be sending out copies of anything, I cannot download from YouTube. I'm gonna have to have either a disk or a flash drive to make copies from.
Carl, I guess my question's answered, it's getting paid for somehow, it's might be reimbursed to the town.
Some way we'll get through it.
Not from the general fund.
Good, yes, I guess, just because I didn't think that was a good idea, maybe. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I think we have a volunteer already. All right, everybody clear on that?
What was Carl gonna do again?
Flash drive.
Flash drive.
Flash.
Flash drive.
I'll talk to Chief.
Okay, going on then to number 14. Consider turning Women's Club records over to Liberty Grove Historical Society. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Gary, Bud? Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't have the list, but it's,
Nancy.
that's all right.
We were very excited to find those 3 volumes over there in the community center this summer.
And we already, as the Historical Society in our museum, have a number of records from the Women's Club. These, however, are the minutes and other activities and lists of people. They're fascinating. I know I have relatives in there. It was fun to see their handwriting. And I'm sure many, many other people do too. They go from 1936 to, I believe, 1992. We would very much appreciate being able to be the stewards of those 3 volumes and any other future records that come forward from the town or the men's club or where are the old Ellison Bay days, wherever. And then we can display them and let other people come and see them too. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer.
Where will those be kept then?
In the museum, in the Locke Museum. At the moment, they're in a bin, the old records, but we do, well, we have a file cabinet that is full. That's why I asked in my letter to you if you could spare that cabinet that was in the community center. If you can, that's fine. If not, we'll figure out a way. But, yeah, they will be mouse-free and damp-free. But we would really appreciate having those because we are now putting out displays this year on churches. Next year it could be the Women's Club.
Okay, any questions? All right, I would move that we turn over I see no reason not to. Turn over the Women's Club records to the Liberty Grove Historical Society and the filing cabinet at the Women's Club. But just telling me we don't use it. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion passed. Already seconded by God. Further discussion?
Did I vote on this one?
Why not? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Come see them next time.
Actually, Janet shared a little bit of that for one of the notes. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. Consider Schenck proposal for audit annual report compilation.
That's got any numbers on that?
This is for 2013.
I'll talk to you.
Okay, Janet. That's right.
Okay, this would be to perform not a full audit, but I don't know what, I call it a mini audit. It is an audit, but it is not a full one like they did last year. Obviously, they don't need to do that. They're using records they're using. They're proposing to do that as well as prepare the annual report and conduct the annual meeting.
Excellent.
For us, the cost would be $4,800, and the utility district, their cost would be $2,400. The utility district would pay their own fee, we would pay the $4,800. I think it's well worthwhile.
I agree. Just like we went to a valuing firm to keep us up to date. I think it's excellent planning and very responsible.
Yes.
And we can, that can be budgeted for next year.
Yep.
I move we approve the Schenck proposal for the town of Liberty Grove for $4,800 for the calendar year figures 2013.
Second that.
Motion by Porter, seconded by Don. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Consider recommendation to pursue investigation into a community kitchen. I think I'm going to suggest we send this to finance at this point. And I move that we send it to finance.
I'll second that.
The recommendation. Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Second. No. Nancy, I'm sorry. Okay, correspondence.
Is there item 13, was that taken up or is that out?
13 was taken off.
13 was taken off, we don't have all the information in yet.
This was something that didn't come in, so I sent to the son and looked at property and just wanted to know. Mike Schneider's
Ready?
Yeah.
A letter from the Door County Environmental Council Board of Directors stating the reasons why it is unnecessary and aggressive tree cutting along Door County roads makes no sense. They give their reasons. A email from Carol and Jim Moronic urging the town board to attend the Door County Stability Project going on in Bailey's Harbor on Tuesday evening. There's another date here.
It was
Last night.
Email from Gloria Doherty, who has mentioned correspondence to her about our love for Garrett Bay Road. Email from Jim and Carol Moronic, critical of the placing public input, suggesting changing the minutes to reflect what they said, and cutting trees on Garrett Bay Road, escalated controversy that has been existing. The DNR letter from regarding salmon planting that John referred to. A permit to upgrade the treatment system at the Maritime Museum in Giltrock that the Maritime Museum will be paying for. The John and Catherine Scandora variance has been granted on a 3-2 vote. The town of Gibraltar miniature golf application has been postponed till October 3rd today. Apparently, I don't know the results of that.
I'm sorry, Bud, what was the Scandora vote? I'm sorry.
3-2.
3-2 in favor?
In favor.
Thank you.
Letter from Pastor Brecky saying that he is leaving the area. The last Sunday will be October 13th. The Barnes variance will be heard Tuesday, October 8th, 6:30 p.m. Board of Adjustment. The educational and discussion meeting for local officials will be 5:30 Tuesday, October 29th. Peninsula Room. Topic is update of the Door County Comprehensive and Farmland Preservation Plan, including review and distribution of maps to be updated. A number of signatures from concerned citizens regarding the fish planting in Gills Rock. And the September report of the WTA magazine.
Just have one letter from Mike Schneider. I'm sorry, it's just a letter about Garrett Bay Road.
And a letter from Mike Schneider with comments on removing trees from Garrett Bay Road, that they will try much that they can be, and if that happens, it will never be the same. That's all.
Okay. Future media.
Tomorrow at 6:30 is finance. Blue Clinic here tomorrow from 11 until noon. No, excuse me, that's on Friday. Highway Committee Monday morning at 8 o'clock. Econ 7 o'clock on Tuesday. Trip meeting on the trip program is Tuesday 1:30 at the Highway Department. I'll be going to that. Plan Commission Wednesday the 8th, the 9th at 7 o'clock. Monday the 14th, IT at 1:30.
That one may be rescheduled. We're gonna leave it on as it is, but it may be rescheduled.
Wednesday the 16th, town
Correct, I have to be excused for that.
Property on the 22nd at 8 a.m. to open bids for the Holtz Park and Sand Bay Park projects. 23rd, Wednesday, Plan Commission at 7 o'clock.
Do we have anything going for that as of now?
Nothing's come across the line for anything right now. And that's it for October. Looking ahead, on the 18th of November, we've got scheduled a budget hearing beginning at 6. Special town meeting right after that to set the levy. And a special board right after that to approve the 2014 budget.
We also have a quarterly meeting of GODC on the 15th. No, October.
You guys will go.
What's the,
Yeah.
what's the name?
GEO-DC.
There's also a meeting on the 12th with the DNR. That was mentioned by the Guild.
Yeah, Cleveland, on the 12th, DNR meeting on fish planting. Also, on the 12th, the YMCA will be using the parking lot here for cars for people to park, and they will be ferried to the big house for a program that will occur from 4:30 till 8:30 p.m.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, next would be payment of bills. Are there any questions on the bills?
I will they be paid as presented.
Second.
Motion by Farber, seconded by Cos. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?